it's Julie. This is the second lockdown yoga week for beginners or for people that haven't done much yoga before, or again, just if you want a class that you could do after some form of exercise, perhaps after a run or a bike ride, this would be perfect to just stretch out and loosen things up. You might want to put some background music on if you want to. You'll need with you, ideally, some sort of strap. Now that can be anything. That can be, a tie or a belt, or even a long t-shirt with long sleeves, and a block of some sort. Could be a book, could be a cushion. So a strap and a block would be fantastic. We're aiming for about half an hour max. Okay, so if you just want to start off by perhaps sitting back into your heels, if that feels okay for you. If not, just sit down onto the seat and bring the legs into a cross-legged position. Inhale, take a lift up, and we can just push the hands away and take a little bit of length down through one side of the body. And as you inhale, we'll take the length the other way, nice and easy. Just bring hands to heart, take a breath. And just for a small amount of time, hands to heart or hands on legs, whichever suits you best. You want relaxed shoulders. Just for a small amount of time, just concentrate on the lungs. Take a deep in-breath through the nose. And notice as the ribs fall as you take your out breath. So a nasal inhalation and a deep sigh away. And while you do that, just keep these lungs increasing in capacity. And while you do that, probably just think about your upper body, your shoulders, your facial muscles. So relaxing around the mouth. You're not squeezing around the eyes, the forehead. And these shoulders can just drop away from the ears. In fact, take a little roll over to one side with the head, neck and shoulders. And easily into the other. So this breath rate, this easy breath can go with you right throughout the class now. And we're going to start off drawing down into extension. So if you just want to bring your knees wide, perhaps they touch the edge of the mat, your big toe mounds connect, push down into the hands and just slide back into this space, into an extended child pose. Taking the weight out of the spine, drawing the shoulders away from the ears. And come back to that in and out breath. And just start to get comfortable in this pose. And you can start to just draw the armpits down towards the floor, draw the chest down, get a little bit deeper. Tucking the chin towards the chest and keeping the shoulders soft. And if you just push into the fingertips, the heels of the hands, you can get a little bit more length back through the spine. We'll do that for 2 or 3 breaths. Until we start to move now, rolling up onto all fours. We'll bring the knees directly underneath the hips and just lift this leg. So we're going to lift the right leg, give it a little squeeze up through the gluteals, little roll through the foot, shoulders drawn away from the ears. We're going to bend the knee slightly, and this right knee now just drops behind your left knee. So you push that across, draw back into these hips, take a breath. Just play about with that, just move the hips, see how it feels. We're going to come back through centre. And this leg can now lift back through its central position and just hover out to the side with the heel lifted, toe down. One more time. Okay, as you exhale, just draw this right knee behind your left, push back. Take a breath. Just move the hips out a little bit. Coming back through centre. It out. A little bit of a hover here, just push the toes down to the floor, a little bit of strength in that hip, and now bringing the knees down. We'll take it through a cat-cow, so just as we did last week, lifting up and down through your spinal column. Inhale, soft lift of the chest, tailbone, exhale, lengthening of the spine here. Okay, and we're going to come down towards the floor, so we're going to stay on the knees. This is start of chaturanga, which is a push forwards basically. So if you lift the hips, you're going to bring the chest down to floor, so the hips stay lifted, elbows drawing towards the ribs, and just practice bringing your body weight forwards a touch, a little bit deeper, and eventually your chest comes all the way down to the floor, the hips follow, breathe in, lift, and extend back through child's pose. So we're starting to bring in a whole range of motion here. Rolling up through all fours, up and down the spine, until you come to a flat back spine. And here we can elevate the left leg, squeeze the gluteals, lift the belly button so this stays strong. We can bend the knee, and when you're ready, just place it behind your right knee. So now we've got left knee lifted behind the right. Push these hips back. Just move things about a touch. So we've already been here on the other side, obviously. I guess a little bit of movement into the hips for you. And when you're ready, come back through all fours. This left leg can lift through centre, out to the side, tap the floor. And when you're ready, just bring it back. So the knee touches behind your right knee. Again, just play with the movement, see how it feels. Sink back a little bit deeper, coming back through centre. So we take a rotation on the hips, so your toe drops down towards the floor, the heel lifts on the other side of the body, back through. And here we go. Okay, so open the collarbones. Start to bring some weight into these arms. We can keep the knees low, hips lifted, and we're just going to draw halfway down. Drive these elbows in towards the ribs, and the head comes forwards and away. Let's take a stretch back. So as you exhale all the way forwards, and come about halfway down, so the elbows tuck to the ribs, collarbones open. Let's do that one more time. Just practicing loading this weight forwards. As you exhale down, in we come again. And this time, try and keep your hips lifted and the chest draws down to the floor first. And we can bring the hands directly underneath the shoulders and lift through a cobra. So just drop your shoulders away. Let the head and neck move around a little bit. And as you bring your cobra back down to the floor, we're going to practice opening the collarbones, drawing the shoulders away, bringing the elbows into the ribs, and just coming forwards. So here, going to get some stretches through the quads, some stretches through the hips and the hamstrings, and that will just get the movement in the spine a little bit softer. So if you just bring your left hand underneath your forehead, bending into this right leg here, and we're going to take hold of the right foot nice and easy with the hand. If that's not happening for you, if you're tight in the quads, you can use the strap to give that a gentle pull. Otherwise, good, taking hold of the top of the foot, just letting the rest of the body sink to the floor, inner thighs connect, pelvis just tucked under, belly button lifted. So for the next 2 or 3 breaths, just keep drawing this foot towards you. The knees are connected, the inner thighs are connected. Just breathe it through here. You're pushing the pelvis very slightly down to get the stretch in your quads. Let's take the same to the other side. Again, use the strap if you need to. Dropping the forehead onto this is hand. And just keep lengthening through this left thigh. Lifting the belly button up a bit so the pelvis tucks down towards the floor. 2 or 3 breaths there. And when you're ready, we'll just loosen that out. How about a cobra? Elbows draw to the ribs, collarbones open. Deep exhalation, just sinking as you breathe in, 3, 2, top of this breath. Good strong lift into your cobra. We'll bring it down once. Just practice these back bends. Don't tense up, just come to where you're comfortable. Inhale on the lift. Okay, from here, we're going to draw back into extension. We've already been here. So we're lengthening back. Coming through centre. And when you're ready, just step this right foot forwards in between your hands. So this is your side view here. You've got a lovely long left thigh. We've already stretched that out. In fact, we'll take a lift up if that feels okay. So breathe in. You can bring the hands together. Shoulder blades slide down the back. Chest lifts. Take a breath. And as you exhale, bring the body weight forwards. Bring the hands either side of this lead foot. I'll show you from a forward view. And then we're going to take the hands right underneath this left shoulder. So this leg is now free to move and your chest can drop a little bit deeper. Okay, so if you point your toes out towards the top corner of the mat, walk the hands forward slightly, deep lunge into the quads. We've already given them a stretch. You can drop onto this outer right side of your foot and just bring your body weight forwards. So you've got a little bit of opening in this hip. You can push that away with the elbow if it feels good for you. Alternatively, you can walk down towards the floor with the elbows and bring the crown of the head forwards. Shouldn't hurt, so you find a level that you can just breathe through. You will take 2 or 3 breaths. Inhale, exhale. So you keep bringing the crown of the head forward if that feels okay. Otherwise, you give this lift up into your hands. How does that feel? Take one more breath. Sink it a little bit deeper forwards. And when you're ready, good, we'll bring this back through to centre. Stepping back into your extended child pose. Rolling forwards, cat-cow. Let's start to flow. In breath comes up. Out breath lengthens. Next time you lift the hips, we're going to come forwards to a half chaturanga, which we've already practiced. Elbows draw in. Let's just hold the weight here on the back of these arms. And as you exhale, draw down to the floor. Eventually the hips come down. Lift through cobra. Exhale back into your extension. Breathe. Really get the spine nice and long. And as we come up through centre, exactly the same. We're going to just step into your left leg. Knee over ankle. Might need to move this leg forwards a little bit, see how you feel. And you can either lift to the knee, but we've got this lovely long quad, lift into the pelvis. If you feel like you can release the knee, up you come. Let these shoulders slide back. Push your lead foot firmly into the floor. Just a couple of breaths. And you keep softening into the pelvis and the hips here. Eventually you come back to the knee, take the hands underneath your right shoulder, crown of head comes forwards, and this left foot draws towards the top left corner of your mat, so it's now at an angle. Let yourself drop onto the little toe side of your foot, and your hands walk away to the top corner of the mat. And just have a play with that, move it around. You can stay lifted on the hands. This back knee's touching the floor at the moment. Okay, how's your breathing? You should still be able to breathe steady. And as you exhale, just start to walk forwards a little bit. And you might want to come all the way down to the elbows into lizard pose, or you might want to stay lifted. Either way now, just sink into your pose, let the hips go, take 2 or 3 breaths. In through the nose. And a deep sigh away as you sink it a little bit deeper. So you're almost trying not to try too hard. You just want to let the hips go to where they're happy to drop to. So now we bring the hands back either side of this lead foot. We'll come back onto the knees, have a stretch, back into extension. Lift up onto the knees. You might need some cushioning on your knees. See how they feel. So you're just going to lift tall. Going to get a little bit of length and strength into these quads by bringing the hands to the back of the neck here. Just so you feel like your head's supported, you want a nice natural curve in the spine. Lift the pelvis up, lengthen the base of spine, and we're not going into a back bend. This core body stays strong. And as you take an in-breath, just let yourself drop back to where you feel you can hold. So you've got this draw back, and knees are working quite hard. If you feel that you can lift the hands away from the head, we'll do that. Just for a couple of breaths. Inhale, exhale, and back through centre. Okay, let's walk the hands forwards. Extend through a downward facing dog, so your feet are now hip distance apart. Edges of feet parallel with the edges of your mat. Move it around, move your hips around. So your option here is to bring the knees down to the floor, so if you get tired, just come down to that position. Otherwise, we're going to hold this downward facing dog. A little bit of movement in the hips, so the right leg lifts. And you start to draw a circle. So we'll circle round from one elbow to the other, and then lift it back up. Round from one elbow to the other. Lift it back up. You can do that one more time. So this left knee can be connected to the floor or the foot. As you exhale, bring the body weight forwards, draw the elbows to the ribs, chest comes down to the floor, well done. Inhale, lift, and take a stretch away. So that whole range of movement we did can be done with one knee or two knees connected to the floor, depending on your strength and how you feel. So we'll lift to a downward facing dog. Left leg can lift away. And again, let's just draw a circle. Move these hips around sockets. Inhale, lift. If you're tired, if your arms or wrists are aching a little bit, bring the knee down on this right side. Start again when you're ready. One more count round. Okay, so we're going to bring the body weight forwards. You can bring a knee to floor if you want to, remember. Chest touches the floor. Through cobra. And extend back. You just take a couple of breaths in your extension there. Push the spine, make it a little bit deeper. Rolling up through all fours. This time we're going to lift through a downward facing dog, so the hips lift. The right leg lifts. And we're going to practice just drawing the knee behind your right wrist, so it's coming wide, sits behind the wrist, and then stretches back up and away. Let's try that one more time. So it sits behind the wrist, right to the edge of the mat. Foot comes across the body, your hips will dictate how far this foot comes across. But you want a little bit of space so you can drop forwards, get a lovely deep pigeon pose into this hip. You can stay on the hands, you can stay tall, or you can start to bring again, get some length. Crown of head comes forwards and away. Just sink into your pose, breathe. If this isn't right for you, just lie on your back, take a number 4 shape stretch with this leg, so you're not putting any pressure onto it, but pigeon pose, great for stretching out the hips. We'll go through different poses every week. Okay. So your hips sort of parallel to the ceiling each side. In other words, you don't want to be rolled off side to side, you want it all parallel. You can pause me if you like and stay here. Some people love this pose. If you're ready to move on, okay, we'll roll up. Just drop onto this right side hip. And again, you might need a strap just to connect to the foot. And take a little squeeze up there. So you get a little bit of length in the quads again. And from here, you can release this leg. Bring this foot round so you're now in seated position. Okay, and the right knee is bent. And if you find your sit bones, they're both connected evenly to the floor. And you want them to stay like that, and you want your torso to be tall. If this leg can come across the body, get a little bit of movement into this left hip, and you cross over. But if crossing over makes you go off to the side, bring your leg back. Okay, so have a little play with it. Draw this leg across. Push both sit bones down. Lift the chest, lift the ribs, lift the hands if that feels okay. If that's too much, you just bring hands onto knee, but you want a tall spine. So 2 or 3 breaths here. And if you feel like you're rolling off to one side, your spinal strength is taking you off that way, draw it back. And if needs be, this foot draws to here. Okay, a little bit more height out the ribs. And finally, we'll bring this right elbow onto the left knee. And you can take a twist round, so get the spine tall. Inhale, open the chest. Walk around, so you take your vision to the back of the mat. And again, you only go as far as you feel you can. Don't push it, just play with it. See how it feels. Rolling back through to center. And we'll release this leg. Push the hands down into the floor, into a downward facing dog. Finally, inhale, lift the left leg. We'll do the same on the other side. So we'll draw knee forwards to wrist. Have a little practice, then bring it back. This time as we bring the knee forwards, you might want a couple of draws forwards just to practice, but then sink this knee behind your left wrist, right onto the outer edge of your mat. The foot comes across the body line. Roll the hips so that they're even, and then start to come forward if that's for you. If you want to stay higher, just stay higher, have a little play with it. Now breathe. Remember the Ujjayi breath we started with, in through the nostrils. Sink forwards. And just challenge yourself to be still in that pose. Again, if this aggravates, sometimes it aggravates your knee. If you've got knee issues, you might just want to take the same stretch in a number 4 shape like that. So you determine how it feels for you. Couple more breaths. Just let it loosen up. See how you feel. When you're ready, we're going to start to walk the hands back to the body line. And then just take the weight over and sink into your left hip there. So now we can move this right leg. It bends. You take hold of the foot with either your hand or your strap. And just tilt the pelvis forwards. Open the right side chest. And squeeze the heel inwards towards the body. And you can do that over the next 2 or 3 breaths. Before we release this leg. Well done. How did that feel? Release the leg. Bring it over. Connect down to your sit bones. And again, this leg can be to this side of your left knee, or it can cross over the knee, depending on how you feel. But if your sit bones lift off to the side like that, you've pushed this leg over too far. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so sitting nice and tall, we'll take a stretch forwards with the palms. Inhale, take a lift, or you can just place the hands onto the knees. Draw your belly button towards the spine. Lift your body tall. Readjust the legs as you need to. Keep pushing this right side sit bone down to the floor. so you don't roll off centre. And finally we'll take the left elbow inside the right knee, lift the spine tall, take a gentle twist. Coming back through centre. Take the leg back. Followed by the other. Drop into a downward facing dog for the last time, in this session anyway. And here we can take soft knees to the floor. Bring the body weight forwards and away. We've already practiced this. And taking hold of one foot and then the other. So you find that if you start to push your feet away, this draws some length into your shoulders. Have a little play with it. If you've got your strap by your side, you can put that around your feet if you need to. So in effect, that lengthens your arms. So if you need the strap, use the strap. Breathe in, just lift the chest a little bit. You've got some strength to pull onto here. And think about rotating your inner thighs towards each other so you don't let the legs splay. And now you're just going to lift the legs, draw the chest forwards into a bow pose. So you can take this lift, or if you prefer, you can keep the forehead and legs down to the floor just for a couple of breaths. And then we'll release it out. Draw these elbows in, ready for cobra. Inhale, collarbones open. Bend the knees, lift into a downward facing dog. We're going to walk the hands and feet towards each other. So we're now forward bend. Okay. If you feel like you need a block to bring the floor to you in your forward bend, quite useful for bringing the height of the floor up. Or you can draw the palms down, whichever feels okay. And then just walk it through, lengthen down the back of one leg, then the other. And eventually drawing both heels down, let the head drop, bend the knees, have a stretch up. We'll take one balance pose before we come down onto the floor. And just take a nice deep stretch. We just did a bow pose, taking hold of the feet, which lengthens the front of the body. On the floor, we'll lengthen the back of the body. But just before we do that, if you just want to stand in Tadasana, standing pose, feet hip distance apart, edge of feet in line with the edge of your mat, and push your weight down into your feet and draw up through the body here. Easy balance pose today. So you're just going to lift one leg, take hold of the knee, just practice pushing this knee away into your hands. So it's easier if you focus on a still spot in front of you. Nice natural curve in the spine. Inhale, exhale, a couple of breaths. How's your balance? Get your balance working from the foot upwards, so push down into the floor, lift the crown of the head away. If you feel like you can release the leg, lift the hands, extend it out for a breath, fantastic. Just playing with balance. There's no right or wrong, it's just something to work on. Okay, pushing the feet into the floor. Find your centre of balance, lifting into your right leg. Pushing the knee away into the hands. Focus on the still spot. Now breathe. Do you remember that breath we started with? No tension, no grimace, doesn't help. We can stay in this position, or if you want to try a little bit taller, lifting through the arms, lengthening into the leg, take a breath, inhale, exhale. And when you're ready, down to the floor, dive into a forward bend. And bend the knees and very slowly uncurl one vertebrae at a time. So you feel like one vertebrae follows the other. Just give the shoulders a little roll, maybe a gentle twist to loosen things up. And we're going to finish off lying into the floor here. Okay. Then taking a stretch through the arms, through the legs. You're in all fours, each fingers, each toes, stretch into each corner of your mat. So take a stretch out in all directions as you breathe in, nice soft shoulders. As you exhale, we're going to bring the right knee in towards the chest. Give it a squeeze, just move it around a little bit, see how that feels. And perhaps draw a circle as your arms drop to a T shape. So circling from the hip, taking it in one direction, then the other. The out breath takes it down, the in breath brings it back up. So lovely and loose in the hip. We've already done some work loosening the hips up. So don't try too hard again, just let it fall to where it naturally goes. When you're ready, we're going to bring this knee up towards the chest. Give it a little squeeze inwards. Take the strap here, or your belt, or whatever you've got at home, around the sole of your foot. Just soften the shoulders away, let them sink into the mat. And then lengthen the leg as much as you can. So you're just taking the kink out of your knee, lengthen the hamstrings. Try not to hold the strap like this. You don't want bent elbows, you want long arms. Shoulders relaxed, and that way you find a balance between your upper and lower body. And you just start to relax a little bit more into the stretch. Perhaps tuck the chin to chest, and over the next couple of breaths, start to walk the hand up the strap here. So you reach a little bit more until you find your very edge of stretch. You don't want to shake. You don't want to feel stressed, but you know you can't go any further. And when you've got that point, lift the heel, draw the toes to you. If you start to feel any tweaks in the base of your spine, that leg can bend to the floor. Okay. So we can now take the length that you found in this right leg, keep that length, take the strap into your right hand, left arm to a T, and just with your strap, let this leg draw out to the side as far as it wants to go. So you get this lovely deep front body opening. So you're in control, you've got the strap, shoulders stay connected to the floor, but your hips will start to lift a little bit. And you can draw your toe up towards the back of the room. And as you exhale, bring it all the way back through the center point. Can release the strap, take hold of your right knee with your left hand and just draw it to the other side of the body. Challenge yourself to be still for a few breaths as that draws across your body line. And eventually we drop back into the floor here into Savasana. Let the hands just open up, the shoulder blades draw down, take a couple of breaths. You may feel that your right leg feels a little bit looser and righter than your left leg. So we'll do the same to the other side of the body, squeezing the left knee in. And as you exhale, take a rotation round. Inhale, circle it back up, nice and easy. It's always worth thinking about the symmetry in your body as well. If one side feels like the other, you may have issues with one hip, which will change the way it works. Just keep this rotation if you can, until finally we're going to bring the knee back up to chest. Give it a good squeeze in, taking the strap around the sole of your foot. And then iron out the kink in this leg so it becomes strong. Arms lengthen. Little bit deeper, little bit deeper. Just hold for 2 or 3 breaths there. Lift the heel, draw the toes to you. When you've got your length, we'll draw that off to one side. Shoulder blades stay connected. Right arm extended. The hips will move a little bit. Take a couple of breaths there. How are you feeling? This is a really nice adductor opening here. When you're ready, bringing it back through center, we can release the strap. And finally, just draw this leg across the body line as you gaze out towards the left hand. So again, don't try too hard, just take 2 or 3 breaths to draw that over a little bit deeper if there's any movement. Hope that feels okay. Then coming back through to centre. We didn't use the block, did we? Next time, draw the shoulders down. Bring the hands down to the body line. Tuck the chin to chest. Just let the whole weight of your body sink into the mat. Iron out any tension in the upper body through the jawline, collarbones, facial muscles, eyes, mouth. As you exhale, let the legs get heavy. Exhale, let the arms get heavy. Even full capacity breaths. And just be still. Give yourself just a minute perhaps. Noting the rise and fall of your chest. And letting yourself sink a bit deeper with each out breath. So here I'm going to leave you. Stay in your Savasana, flat into the mat if you want to. When you're ready, come up nice and gently. Take some soft movements. And that was week 2. Well done at Beginners Yoga. Next week we'll move it on a little bit more. Any questions, drop me a line and ask me. I think I've run over time, so sorry about that. Bye everyone.